I have two daughters, and I realized how much Funmilayo's father influenced her. So even when she was beaten and she was downtrodden and all, it was what her father told her that made her, that thing just gave her courage to continue. So the thing, and another thing again, how she herself influenced Fela. Because Fela's life, after watching Funmi, I can understand why or how Fela became the activist he became. So she also influenced him. So the thing, I feel like I learned the most though, and I don't have to, there's this general notion, though these days it doesn't hold anymore, but those days where, if you have only girls as children, they won't see you as strong enough to stand in certain, places. But right now, having a girl or a boy doesn't really matter. What really matters is what you actually put in that child. Yes. Because you can have a son and he won't even represent the family. Yes. But a female that is properly, that is properly raised to understand that I'm a human. I should stand for my right, whatsoever it is. Standing for what I believe. That person, of course, like we saw, she literally dethroned the king.
Yes.
I mean, a Yoruba land, a king in a Yoruba land, she dethroned. A man wouldn't have been able to do it. Quite honestly, a man wouldn't have been able to do it. The force that she didn't just use the women, it wasn't just the women of Egba, it was the women all over. And she what she did actually was what incited what happened in another state in Aba. So I learned the most.
What was happening in Aba? It was already started. The Aba, what Magwatepo was doing with the Aba Women's March, and everything. But I agree with you in terms of, and I think the subjugation of women is not just now. I think that one was.
Yes.
I think you see how the king kept saying that like just a mere woman. And when they were making and when they were making jest of her, they were also saying that how many children has she even given birth to? More of like trying to equate her strength or her busyness to the number of children that she already has. And they were saying that the husband is not even busy. But for me, I think one major fact that stood out for me is how the husband was the backbone.
Yes.
How Israel Ransome-Kuti was the major backbone. That's where she would run to. That's where she would get a lot of her inspiration, her strength, Even when she, some of those women who left because they felt that their husbands would not allow them. She didn't have that concern. Yes. Because she knew the kind of man that she married. That this man, will back me up any day, anytime. And even when the daughter was showing concern, he pulled the daughter back to say that your mom has work to do. And it is also in that support that the man was suffering in silence. Yes. Because he would have enjoyed the care of his wife when he was sick. But he decided not to tell Funmilayo because he knew that if he had told Funmilayo, she would have to step back. Yeah. And she would even carry more of the guilt. Even though at the end she carried the guilt that she wasn't there, but she would be feeling bad that she wasn't there for her husband. So for me, that part really stood out for me. Joy.
And I also feel, initially she came back with the idea of giving the community education.
Yes.
That was her goal. But along the line, she realized that there's something that is even more pressing.
Yes.
And then this one is injustice to not just the children, but the whole community. They were taxing the women more. They were even collecting taxes on water. That is how much they were so mean to the women. And it was extending to their children. Because the women need to work hard. One of the women said, whether they sell or not, they pay taxes. So because of that, she needs the assistance of her child. So by that, making the child not go to school. So she realized that if she focuses on education alone, eventually most mothers will not send their children to school because they will need to come and help them in the market. So she went to the root cause of an issue she thought she was seeing. So, and watching this movie back made me reflect on things that happen in societies. Before, I never really thought of it. But then I remember that when my dad died and they were sharing his properties, they gave me only a spoon.
Wow.
Literally gave his
Sorry,
spoon.
Joy.
Literally gave his
My
spoon.
grandmother called me and said the spoon they gave me.
Was his spoon a golden spoon? Because we need to know.
This is
Just
not
a
What is a
random
golden
spoon.
spoon? Or?
A random spoon.
Did you break it to check inside? Maybe there was something.
You people are not serious. They gave me only a spoon. And when I asked, my uncles don't, because I always ask questions. They said women don't own properties. So if there's land, if there's car, if there's a house, it's a man they will give it to, not a woman. Even if it's my younger brother, he will be the one to own the properties. Me, I'll be left with only spoons and plates. Because and pots. Because that, they just believe that's the only thing I can manage as a woman.
So besides, it's also the fact that it is believed that you are going to invent a woman will end up in the kitchen.
You understand? Yes.
So that's the spoon you should be going
Thank
to use.
you. So watching this movie now, I'm going to my village. They will give me land though. They will give me land. I'm not taking on a spoon again. By the time I come back to Abuja, I'm sure I will be a owner of like 10 plot of land. So yeah.
Okay, I think for me, what actually stood out for me was the fact that she did not mind her business. You know, if she had minded her business, we wouldn't have known the Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. I think everything would have about her that we know about her in history. Because for me, while watching the movie, I couldn't believe that she did this much. And what people know about her now is the first woman to drive a car. Like, how could you shroud all of what she did, her achievements, you know, under driving a car? And, you know, the reporter asked her while she was, you know, advocating, you know, for the women. The reporter asked her, like, you are not in the same class as these women. Why are you so concerned about them? And she said, it's not about me. So I think that, I think that we should leave the era of mind your business. Yeah. That you are in the high class does not mean that it will not touch you one day. Because it's touching the women in the lower class or at the bottom of the ladder one day to get to you. And you know, I wrote a lot of quotes, and one of my favorites is, it's neither too late nor too early to, you know, to stand up. Stand up, and it starts from standing up, one, for yourself, standing up for the person, you know, around you, standing up, like, let it be a torch. Let's pass the baton, let's pass it on. And, you know, women, let's rise up.
I'm talking about rising up. I think the first example of her rising up, we saw it in school. Besides the fact that she was just the only girl in that school. But when those boys, you remember in the class, when that boy threw something at her, and how she went and then just slapped her. I don't encourage violence.
But sometimes it's necessary to
You know, and that brings me to this issue of, you remember this girl from this school in Abuja where, you know, another girl was bullying her.
Yes.
And the conversation online was, and which was something that I also had to wrestle with, is, how do I want to train my child? Do I want to train my child in such a way that she doesn't respond when she's being slapped, the way that girl did not respond? Because a lot of people applauded her sense of restraint, the fact that she didn't fight back, she didn't do anything. But also, a lot of people said that I want to train my child in such a way that when they beat you like that, don't come home to tell me they beat you. Come home to tell me how you beat the person back. Yes. So sometimes it's a dilemma. On one hand, people celebrate. Which thing you have a thought on it?
Yes. Me, my children would most likely be like me. They will slap the person back.
No, eventually you might end up praising bullies.
No, there is a difference. There's a very, very contrasting difference between being a bully and standing up, knowing how and when to stand up for yourself. You can be the loveliest person, you can be the most friendly person, but one thing I've realized in life is, if you don't fear, people fear you.
Yes.
It doesn't make you a bully.
Yes.
It's just that they know that I cannot, you know, ride on this person, I cannot intimidate this person. So once you're not scared,
if you don't fear, people fear you.
Yes, that's just how life works.
That's true.
And this brings me to something else. So I was watching something, and somebody said something that Africans don't address the issues of Africa. that everybody he related some everybody is building applications, and then you look at Africa, there are bad roads, there are lots of systems not working, and you want to emulate the the Western world where structures are working, and then they are building apps to make their life even easier. And here, the apps you're building, there are certain people that should benefit. They can't even reach it.
Yes.
So one thing that really inspired me about her is the fact that, like she said, she came with education actually. And then when she realized that, okay, no, this is not the problem.
Yes.
We need to actually fix this problem for this to work.
Yes.
So I mean, that just it's not just about the woman. I think she was a mother.
Yeah.
She was a mother to everybody.
She told on the United now.
She understood it right from when she was young. Because even her standing up for herself, she wasn't just standing up for herself, and I believe she was standing up for her gender. For her. So she understood that very long time ago, but I still insist that her father played a major. See, I've learned a lot as a father myself, and
Let me just
honestly,
just like
Incoming father.
how did you know what I Okay, let me say I'm a husband and planning to be a father.
Incoming.
I could see the role of both a father and a husband, and sincerely speaking, I would say those are the two, should I say, agents or entities that played huge roles in the personality of Funmilayo. If it's the case that, and let me just come from this parental responsibility, that the words parents speak matter a lot. If you could say a kind of reflection in this character of Funmilayo, there was a particular point that she was giving up. Yes. The circumstance was not favoring her, but she flashed back to what her dad said. And I noted it down here that there was one she said about soak up the oil and not just the stew.
The husband.
The husband's one, and also the father too also said something like she just so she just has to stand for herself, and even when the circumstance is not favoring, she must not forget her vision. So if we may ask, what is her vision from onset? She defined very clearly what she really wanted. What she wanted. It was not because she was not doing it because other women were doing it. It was even at the time that no woman was ready to stand up to face the authority, so to say. Exactly. So she was there, and I just feel like it's what women should understand, that number one, they must ready to stand for themselves. We are saying that both the father and the husband played huge role, but what of for the women that they had no father, they had no husband to play the role in their contributing to what they had as vision? And this is where I noted down where Funmilayo said that women, if they are not well represented, no man can make a decision that will be favoring to them, because no man can feel the feeling of a woman. The woman herself is the one that can feel her feeling, knows what is important for them, and do it themselves. So in the authority, like those in authority, they may say they are making decisions that are good for women, but they cannot know how sufficient those decisions are for the women themselves. If the women do not rise themselves to be in those positions, to take decisions for them. So there may be a time that a daughter may have a father that will encourage her to carry on. A wife may have a husband that will encourage her to carry on. But what if that woman or that daughter does not have the father or the husband that will encourage them to carry on? So the woman themselves, and that's what, this movie that I watched, okay, I took history when I was in secondary school. It was not as detailed as this. And I think it is deliberate that the history is silent about this part of the king being removed by woman. it is so ridiculous for the culture.
And even at defiance, it's the fact that because even as Africans, we are not trained to stand up.
Yes.
We are not trained to even ask questions.
Yes.
And even when you are standing up, against something that maybe your leader has done or something, you are seen as being rude, being, like not well trained or something like that. They say they will tell you that your parents did not train you well. And I remember with Bring Back Our Girls, we also had that issue there, when people will look at us and say that we're not well cultured people. And then when you now bring it to women, the African society does not allow women to speak, to talk, to have any voice, to be able to do or say anything, so long as just shut up. And we saw how the king and those kings, you remember when she walked into the palace, and those kings and everybody, and they were like, when she said, "May I approach you?" They are like, she's arrogant. If it was a man that said, "May I approach you?" they would not look at it from the point of. So, Toba, the point you're making regarding the fact that for sometimes it is the women themselves that need to build that confidence, that inner confidence and ability, because the society we live in does not allow us. Because what happens, like you rightly said, when the woman in question or the girl in question does not have a father or a husband, it means that you have to. My mom will usually say something in Yoruba. She will say that "Taba bi omo yeman tun bi." What it means is that if they birth you, you must rebirth yourself. Like you must reborn yourself so that you fit into that identity. So I just wanted to piggy on what you were saying.
And I should add this. I feel from this that I've watched, women had an advantage. And what is that advantage? The advantage is that the culture is disadvantageous to them. The culture is not expecting anything from women. Unlike if it was to be a man, he would have been arrested from onset or killed or something. But it's because the culture is not expecting any woman to make anything significant. So that's like a yes.
Plan of repair
For men, it's ironical. The check is filled for us. It is expected that a man should be responsible, a boy should be responsible, but nothing is expected from that of a woman. So it is an advantage for all women that culture is not expecting anything from them. They have a blank check, so they can write what they want in this blank check themselves. Funmilayo wrote it, and that's why we are celebrating that today. So if we are to, according to the data we have collected so far, the population of women and that of men is almost equal. So if that is the case, and here we saw that though it took our time, and for the women that we have at the helms of the affairs now, they also need to come down and identify themselves with the women in the market, so that they can understand that they representing is not just for themselves. That is why when Funmilayo was before the women, there was a statement like accolade, let me say commendation for her. She rejected it and gave it to them.
Yes.
So there is no man that you can, man, like biological term now, like you can be representing and let them know that this thing I'm doing is not for myself. It's for all of us that will not be ready to. So those at the Senate level, at the Federal House of Representatives, even state by state, they should come down, go to those women, let them hear that there are seats for them there, for them to just take up. So if they don't identify, the husband said something about uniform. I got that understanding too. How they came about uniform. Whether you are the president's son, so far you are attending a school, we are both putting on the uniform. That means we are equal. Now, Funmilayo took up that concept. They changed their clothes, and I felt that is a change of identity and worldview. I want you to know that, as it is, I'm a woman, I want it to know that though you are that market, in White House, it does not mean that we are different. We can eat from the same pot. But like what is happening, this cultural vices are both applicable to us. So all of us, we are the same. And that's what they broke the barriers for them to know that they are equal. So the women that are already at those ends of affairs, they should not just stay there, because with the cultural tide where they are safe is not safe. If they do not carry the women that they think they are not the same along. So if you are elected as a senator, know that office is not just we need you for. Go back to that market. Go back to those places, those villages. Let the women be sensitized about it is not. And there is another thing I want us to say. The first woman that addressed the women, you know, she was speaking English. So like, and that's when the husband told her that you cannot win the heart of these people and think that. And I just want to bring this idea of Johnson Maxwell to this by saying that touch the people's hearts before you ask for their hands. So if they are not touched, if their hearts are not touched, there is no how you want to bring them along. So they went back. The first thing she said, she started with Yoruba. Those women, if I were the one, I put myself in that situation, in my mind, I'll be like, aha, okay, sorrow, we are together. So she was speaking from their perspective. No. So those ones too, they should just calm down and, you know, go back to those places.
One thing is also the concept of empowerment. Female women empowerment. How we do empowerment. So you remember when they started as Abeokuta Women's Union, right?
Women's Club.
Abeokuta Women's Club. It was elitist.
Yes.
It was class. It was like for a particular class of women. And the things they were doing that they thought was reaching the women that they were representing, you know, needing all of those things. As they were doing that, the women in the market, who were the women for whom they came out in the first place? The reason why they gathered in the first place, the women in the market were being beaten simultaneously while they were there teaching how to do this. So sometimes we come up with empowerment programs and they are not affecting the people that are supposed that needs it. And sometimes we come up with projects that are not addressing the problem that we want to address. So you are teaching some women how to do this, how to do that. But the main problem that you're supposed to be addressing is the fact that women are being taxed. Do you get? So two issues here. The issue of the fact that you come up with a project that is not addressing the main issue. And second, the fact that even the implementation of your project is only to a particular set of people, not those people. And when Toba was talking, I remember the monument data that we collected. I've not seen any monument. Do we have any monument, national monument for Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti? Is it part of the national monument?
No.
It would be good for us to check. National, because in our data, in our data, we collected data of women's representation in national monument. There are 65 national monuments. And out of it, only 4 represent women.
Even 3.5.
In fact, which is just, And the idea for that data was for us to say, women have contributed a lot. I mean, this is Nigeria's 25 years of democracy. Women have contributed a lot. But how many women are being recognized? Even in the president's speech for the Democracy Day, the only woman he mentioned was Kudirat Abiola as the wife of Chief MKO Abiola. Not in her own right as a fighter. But I mean, there are women like Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti who have contributed to Nigeria's democracy, you know, who were not recorded. So it just tells you again, and the suppression of the history of women, of the contribution of women, is also another thing. Like Shola said, the only thing that we all can remember or know about Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti is the fact that she's the first woman that drove a car. But there's a whole lot more to Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, not just the fact that she ousted the Alake of Egba land, but also the fact that she ended the tax. Look at the ripple effect of that. The empowerment of people, the emboldening of women. I don't think that human rights activists like me will be standing and doing the work that we do, if not for the work of women like Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, Margaret Ekpo, Gambo Sawaba, and a lot of all these other women. So we should also think about the kind of stories that are being told and who is telling the stories. So long as it is men that are telling these stories, women will never be elevated in those stories. Which is why it is important that we women tell our own stories, so that in our own stories we're elevating women who have contributed not just to the democracy of Nigeria. We're talking about what is happening in Kenya. You remember how their demand changed at some point. Their initial demand was not to oust their Alakas. Their initial demand was this tax, please just remove it. If that tax had been removed, and you remember they were clear about their messaging, we had 3 demands. Remove the 10% increment, this tax on water and all of that, remove it, and the payment for the para-cois should not be coming from women. So they were clear about their messaging. But when they saw that that was not even being done, the person that was standing in their way, that had the power and the responsibility, when they saw, they said that, okay, you know what? You remember it was after they were beating, they came back, you know what? We want their Alake out.
Yeah, since you don't want to do it, we'll find a way.
We'll find, exactly. Let's remove the main problem. You know, so there is a whole lot to this, but I did younger. I'm also itching to hear you.
For me, actually, from this movie, what really was kind of a little bit surprising for me, that the issues of gender inequality has been long, like it's a long back issue. If you saw from the movie that there was no school for females in Abeokuta. I'm like, the whole of it, no school for females, just male. So that means right from the onset, it was just a male domineering area. And then we also saw that the father was the one that even took the girl. That means men too has a role to play in gender inequality. So the dad actually took the child to a boys' school. Not just that, the husband to later fought for her right then in that same when they were trying to beat. So we see that men have a lot of role to play.
It wasn't that there was no school
in Abeokuta for the girls. For the girls.
Yes, for the boys. For the girls in Abeokuta. It was not because there was no school. It was because there is a cultural perspective that school was not meant for the boys. No, it's 2 different things. There was no school is different from people were not taking their children, female children, to school. It's 2 different things.
I get it.
There was school, but there is a cultural perspective that those schools were not meant for females.
No. I think the point that Gideon is making is that other than the fact that these schools were set up for boys. You remember when our father was saying that you will go to university and all of that? She said that you have to go to Lagos. She was saying that, but our father had to say that in response to what she said, that there is no female school in Abeokuta, which connotes that the school in Abeokuta was for men, was for boys.
Only. You now know my position is for the father to now take Funmilayo to a school that was for boys. That means that it was not that they said.
So it means if other parents have done the same, maybe they would have been.
No, the father being that the father was close to the principal. Do you understand? That was why. If
it was a rule,
no,
they
can break rules. No. If he was an ordinary person, they would have been.
She's from
an
influential family.
Yes.
Her father was influential. Yes. And then the father approached the principal to put his daughter, who is actually a high flyer also, from where she was coming from. If you remember, the principal said that they are happy to have her, that she was the first female in their school, and then he commended her performance from where she was coming from. So ordinarily, they probably would have accepted one ordinary market woman's daughter.
And apart from that, it was even because she went to that school that another lady, the other lady that worked with Grace, that was why she went to that school. If not, she wouldn't have.
Okay, but you still have more points to make, right? Is that your only point?
Then apart from that, what also stood out for me was her strength. Like a woman can be everything as long as she has her mind and her dreams there. And then for us, the single people that actually know for us that the single people that are actually not yet married, I feel when you are choosing a life partner, you should consider your dream.
Yeah.
Don't go for a man that will not allow you to fly.
Sometimes it's not written on you.
Sometimes it is not written, but you will have conversations, and somebody will now tell you that a woman is supposed to come and support my dream as a man. Abba, what kind of?
The thing is that is where parenting comes in. Most women are raised to please only their husbands, right from childhood. If you are doing anything, your mother said, "Is this what you do in your husband's house?" You are raised to cook, clean, and take care of children. So when you are looking for a man, you are looking for a man that will provide for you only, because you are not supposed to have a dream. That is why, you understand? So as a child, you are being raised to not have a dream other than taking care of your children and your husband. So when you are looking for a husband, you won't have it in mind to say, oh, if I want to be the president, will my husband support me? Because that was not what you were looking for. We're just looking for a man that will provide for you so that you'll be taking care of his children and him. So sensitizing women, Chimamanda said something about how women are groomed from childhood to just be women, just be mothers. She said, you see that a parent will buy female toys, children for the female, their own daughters. They'll be changing their clothes, combing their hair, making their hair, whereas they will buy toys like building, you see those things, you build pyramids and other things for their boys. So the boy already know that I'm supposed to build things. I'm supposed to do things. I'm supposed to do things that will, but a woman is to take care of a doll baby, bait the doll baby, make the doll baby's hair. You understand? So that is the thing. So we have to educate parents to let their female children know that they can be whatever they want to be. It is up to you to choose if you want to be a mother only and take care of your husband.
That when she said boys are to cook in this house.
Thank you. Yes. That in this house, boys
cook.
Yeah.
So parents will have to put it in their daughter's head that you can be whatever you choose to be. You cannot be just relegated to a corner. It is now up to you to decide if you want to be in that corner when you grow up. But girls are trained to be in that particular fix. I don't want to go into that today because I saw one place in the Bible where Apostle Paul said a woman should not speak in church.
No, don't go there.
I don't want to go there. I really don't want to go there.
Don't go there. The reason, don't go there.
Context matters. You cannot culture. Context matters. When you are interpreting the Bible, when you are interpreting the Bible,
It has been like that for long.
No, there was a context. There was a cultural context that informed that. And even that was said, it wasn't supposed to be like a lifelong thing. It was just for that setting because of the situation that was happening there for a particular situation. It wasn't now supposed to be, I mean, one of the things I've been interested in is countering the gender inequality narratives that are in the Bible. And even it's not just in the Bible, it's different religious texts. Because there are things that are used for. So if I say something to Shola right now, that thing I'm saying to Shola may be just for this. It doesn't mean that is entirely of what I want to tell Shola for like her life. So we must also be able to understand the context for what is said, who it was said to, what it was supposed to address. One of the things that we say in law is that for every law there is a literal interpretation of that law and there is a mischief interpretation of that law. Literal interpretation means no one shall kill.
Exactly.
Literally,
yes,
you can.
That's it.
But mischief interpretation says that what is the mischief the drafters of this law? What are they trying to solve? Because that's why sometimes you will see murderers will go scot-free. Because when you do a mischief interpretation of that law, you realize that, quote and unquote, the person that killed because he or she was trying to defend him or herself cannot be given that context of the literal meaning. Don't kill. So you must always look for the intention behind something that was done. the intention, the context, you know, who it was set to, what it was supposed to address at the time, before we now use it as a blanket.
Exactly.
Approach.
You know that most of those things that happen to women are backed up by religious
texts.
Do you understand?
Yes.
That's what she just interpreted when she talked about, you know, those mischiefs and this thing.
So even the way you will use a mischief interpretation to do a positive interpretation of things, people who mischievously want to advance negative narrative, they also apply mischief interpretation to use it for. I mean, terrorists will say that girls should not go to school. Because terrorists will say that go and do suicide bombing. When you get to heaven, how many virgins will they be waiting for you? Is it 21 virgins? And all of that. For all you care, it could be a religious text, but that was mischievously interpreted to suit a particular agenda or a particular narrative. So we must always put that. But let's hear HR.
Okay, so for me, a lot has been said, and everything that has been said really stood out for me too. But what I'm taking on personally is the power of mentorship. The father.
Speak it.
I just feel that to attain greatness to a particular level, as maybe from childhood, you need somebody to hold you, or through, and for somebody to plant that seed in you. I think it's the seed that was planted into Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti that grew to this. You know, if she didn't have the opportunity to have that such father, she would just be an ordinary girl.
Yes.
Do you understand? She would just be an ordinary girl. You know, the thought, the strength, everything won't be there. So I think personally, we should, as a parent, we should try as much as possible, you know, to sow good seeds of greatness into our children. And also, if we don't have the opportunity as a child, since we are grown, we should look for somebody that can hold your hand through greatness. You understand? And you can, you know, it's not necessarily be one person. You can find people who you feel that, you know, are in those shoes and that can help you grow if you really want to be great, because you just, you know, ride on their shoulders to fly.
That's true.
And the other thing that stood out for me is a mentality of do more mentality. You remember the secretary to the this thing, when she said, after all the school, after all this thing, you are now a secretary serving coffee. She said, you can do more. It means that both for a woman, a man, everybody, it's cut across all the gender. We can do more, regardless of what we are doing, and don't settle for less. You know, she was so disappointed and I later saw her. She joined the protest. You know, so I feel that we shouldn't settle. We should have the spirit of okay, after this I can do another thing. I can do another. And, you know, don't be afraid to aim high, to look out for, you know, other people doing better things than you are, and also aspire to be like them. So I think that is also fine. And I also know that a lot of things has been said about the husband too. The husband too did a whole lot of work. You won't understand the grace you have when you have a partner that gives you the support that go. Look at that last part when they hug each other and they just go. I know that's really, really embodied her, and you know, she has all the supports, you know, that really helped her to be who she was. What else? Yes.
Please, I would like to add something.
Yes.
You know, as everyone was talking, this just came to mind: the power of sisterhood. The power of sisterhood. You know, sometimes women, we can be very, you know, there's this thing, people statements. I've heard this statement about how people say that women don't support each other. Sometimes we can be, what's the word now? We can feel threatened by the graciousness of another woman, because you know, you've been here, so another person comes, you think that this person is coming to take your place, or you know, we cannot underestimate the power of support. You know, the support that Grace provided Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti couldn't have done it alone. You know, she kept saying, Auntie me, yes. She kept, even in their elitist, you know, group, she kept saying, listen to her, let her talk. So there's power in when you are up there. Do you understand? Toba has mentioned it, there's power in gathering your own kind. You know, there's power in sisterhood.
Yeah.
And also empowerment. You know, I think we've reduced the word empowerment to doing projects. Empowerment could be something as empowering people to say no. Empowerment is not just saying an educated woman can be beaten by her husband. She doesn't know how to say no. An educated woman, empowerment is not necessarily education. It's not necessarily skills, this thing. It could be as powerful as saying, empower them to say no, because the Aba women riots inspired this. And it is just the coming together of illiterate, educated, and they were requesting one. They were saying, no, we don't want this. We shouldn't forget that empowerment can be as powerful as empowering people to say, no, we don't want this. You know, and I also learned about language. Language is not necessarily us speaking the same language. It's about identifying with what the other person is going through. You are speaking their language. And that was what Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti did. You know, and even when she was speaking English, they kept saying, Beni, Bawa. They were saying yes, because they trusted that she was speaking. Yes. She was making their demands. Yes, they didn't understand, because they saw the genuineness, that this woman is genuine. She will not leave us. She will not do this. She will not do that. So there's really, you know, so much hidden, you know, from, like I said, sisterhood to empowerment to language to, and you know, I would like to raise a question. I think that would start another conversation entirely. That do you think that women giving birth to a lot of children in those days is a ploy to keep them down?
Yes. Of course.
Especially when the king said that. When the king said that, how many children does she have? Like, is it a ploy? Yes, to keep, you know, to keep women down. You know, I think.
That the husband is not busy enough.
Yes.
If she was busy enough, that she would actually be busy taking care of many children.
Like,
yes. I agree with him that it was a ploy to.
Yes, and there was another statement about, it's been a while your husband beats you. Like, they saw gender-based violence as normal. You know, when the Parakoyi guy slapped her, he didn't expect that she was going to retaliate. So he said, it's been a while your husband beats you. So I believe that for us to make a change, really, for us to really come out there and make a change, women, we have a lot to do. Like Toba said, no man will make this, help us make these rules or help us make these laws that will favor us. It will always favor them. And he said something about, you know, there's a statement that the hunter will always tell a story that favors him. The hunter will never tell the animal, because the animal is there, cannot tell the story. So I believe that women, from sisterhood, we need to come together. Both the weak, the strong, we all have something to offer. Even the weak that you think that does not have something to offer. Remember the 10 lepers in the Bible. You know, everybody has something to bring to the table.
And so that brings me to something that Erelubisi Fayemi said in her book. That's the book I'm currently reading, Demand and Supply. She explained the concept of voice and space, and how every one of us, we have our voice. We have our voice on issues that are, you know, important to us. As much as we work on human rights issues and work on gender equality issues here, I'm sure that there are aspects of those things that are much more interested to, that you are much more interested in, that somebody else is not as much in. And a lot of times those things are informed by where you are coming from, how you are raised, the experiences that you have seen. So I think that also understanding how the concept of voice and space is, you know, how you use your sphere of influence to use your voice in order to advance the cause, you know, or equalize the society. So it's just to also be conscious of that, you know, concept of voice and space. But in relation to advocacy, there were lessons here for me as a human rights advocate. And I think it's also a lesson that we must put out there. You remember that at some point, in law, we call it local standard. A local standard was questioned. Local standard in terms of, who are you to represent these people? And I remember she said, I am a woman, as a woman, and as a mother. That in itself, because I remember for Bring Back Our Girls, people questioned our locus. People questioned why the legitimacy we had, you know, to do the work that we're doing. I remember CP Umbu, Commissioner of Police Umbu, who was in charge of FCT at the time we're doing Bring Back Our Girls, actually banned us from, you know, gathering. That was after we also experienced our own beating. you know, in May of 2015. But yeah, they beat us. They came to the Unity Fountain and they beat us. So, oh yes, all of us, you know, our local standard was questioned. And local standard simply asked the question of legitimacy. Who are you to do this? And they asked us the question, why are we representing the Chibok girls? We are not related to the Chibok girls. We are not from Chibok. So why are we just sitting here in Abuja and there that we are doing it because of popularity and everything? And I remember Femi Falana SAN represented us, and I was in court on that day. And he explained the principle of local standard. And he explained it through the lens of how we are our brother's keepers. That you don't need to... Somebody said that family is not always by blood. Family is often by loyalty, by love, by care, by who listens, who pay attention. So you will notice that at local standard, and she said, the mere fact that I'm a woman births, a woman brings things to life, a woman keeps things alive. And so just being able to make sure that as a woman, I am the one keeping these other women alive because their lives is dependent on this. So that part comes in. But you will also notice in terms of advocacy, the change in tactic. You remember that at first, she went to the palace to go and engage the Alaki.
Yes. Yes.
The original approach was not a confrontational approach. It was a collaborative approach, a sit at the table approach. Yes. Oftentimes, before something becomes a street protest, we often would have explored the sit at the table protest. Daniel Ojukwu case comes to mind. How we were going to the police station every day, and the fact that nothing happened, and one day we just like, you know what, these people will not understand until we go on the street. No government likes to be embarrassed because when you go on the street, media will carry it, it will go on international media. So there is often the confrontational and the collaborative approach to advocacy. It is usually advised for you to exhaust the collaborative part. And if that doesn't work, employ the confrontational part. But both of them can also run side by side. You remember also how Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti was asking this lady, I don't know what her name is in the movie, but that who is speaking for you people? You women are not coming together. You women need to come together. It means that a lot of times when there is an issue, you need a face. You need somebody that is the rallying point. The person is shaping the narrative. The person is engaging the people on the supply side. You are the demand side. The person is managing a lot of things. So, but beyond that, you need somebody among you. For Bring Back Our Girls, we also saw that importance where we felt, let's not just be the ones speaking on this issue. Let the mothers themselves be in front of the camera, and they are the ones also speaking about this issue. So, and then when the women came together, we were able to have that. And of course, we saw the power of massive mobilization. You remember their first match, they were just few. And then gradually it grew, grew and grew and grew, and then we saw how we had that massive. But beyond that was that they were mobilizing outside of the people that were mainly affected by that issue. Ijebu, like in different places. So that means that injury to one is injury to all. A lot of times, we get on issues that don't concern us directly, but they concern the soul of the country that we're fighting for. It concerns the future generation. So we must always think of that in terms of advocacy. Don't think of advocacy only when the issue concerns you. Think of advocacy also that you are fighting for a bigger picture, because it is in that bigger picture that our children and our children's children will live in. And you hear when she said that, we are fighting for the future of our children. I've also talked about, but one last thing I want to talk about. In advocacy, there will always be counter actions.
Yes.
And we saw those are counter actions. So both internal counters and external counters. Internally, some of the women said, well, my husband is a title chief. It is this same Alake that gave him the title chief. I can't go. And then there were people who felt that, won't this affect us and all of that. Even Funmilayo herself doubted herself. So there will be internal, But there will also be external oppressors. And we've also seen it in this. They brought the Ogbonis and the Oros. But thank God that the women also had their own. The women had their own Orisha, who neutralized the power. The fact that the women went, bare chest, countered, the approach that they were giving. And of course, we saw a bravery, which ended the name Ekun Omo Lishabi. Ekun Omo Lishabi, that was why the king was angry. Why are they calling somebody else a lion when you should be the only lion? So, guys, thank you for watching our discussion regarding the Funmilayo movie. We decided to do this at Invictus Africa because we believe that this movie drills deep into the work that we do here, our work of advancing gender equality. But beyond that is to talk about how women are also powerful and how we must tell the stories of women who have contributed to Nigeria's 25 years of democracy and even beyond. And these conversations we have had here has been team members of Invictus Africa, from Joy to Whitson to Shola to Edidiong to Ebun to Toba and to me, Buki. And thanks for watching. And we hope that we also hear your own thoughts. If you have watched the movie Olufunmilayo, let's hear your thoughts. If you have not watched it, it's on Prime Video. Go and watch it. And let's hear your thoughts about this. And we really want to thank the producers of this movie for making it possible and for everyone who acted in this movie. Thank you. Till we watch another movie and have this kind of rowdy conversations again. Bye from all of us.